Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levy, and today we're going to talk about UFC Vegas 97. Gilbert Burns versus Sean Brady. And my friends, it's going down this Saturday night live at the Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. You got perennial badass Gilbert Burns defending his spot in the top 5 against Sean Brady. And this should be a really good fight. I mean, Burns is a guy who had success at lightweight. Now he's having success at welterweight. He's one of the original anytime, any place guys. Well, I say original. I mean, from like the last, half decade or so, because obviously the original anytime, any place guys were like BJ Penn and whatnot. But I'm saying from the newer era of fighters, Gilbert Burns is, he acts like an OG, and we love stuff like that. And Brady, very physical guy. We've heard at length about how strong this man is, and this is a really well matched main event. So let's get down to business.
Let's get down to business. Give you one more night to get this. We've had a million nights just like this. So let's get down to business.
Main event of the evening in the welterweight division. We got Gilbert Durden Burns. He's 22-7, taking on Sean Brady, who's 16-1. Currently, they got it. Sean Brady minus 185. The comeback on Gilbert Burns is plus 160. So when the fight first got announced, I wasn't really too sure what I thought. This one I really had to look into, and now I actually do have an opinion after looking into it. So firstly, all credit to Gilbert Burns, man. I mean, I think that he's got some of the best jiu-jitsu in the UFC. I think that he's got one-hitter quitter, knockout power, and just the fact that this is a guy who is willing to fight anyone, anytime, any place, short notice, long notice, it doesn't matter. Like, he's a real badass. So respect to Durden. And then Sean Brady on the other side, he's a guy that I've kind of been a little skeptical about and whatnot, but I think that he's actually trending in the right direction. So when we talk about Burns, what are Burns' biggest weapons? Well, obviously that overhand right and that left hook are nasty, and you know that when this guy gets on top of you, there's a fat chance you're getting back up, especially back in Gilbert's prime. Like I said, I think he's got some of the best pure jiu-jitsu in the sport, but we have to be aware of the fact that Gilbert's kind of getting up there in age, man. He's 38 years old. Let's check. When does Durden turn 39? So Durden turns 39. Okay, so he just turned 38. So we got a while to go before he turns 39. But regardless, I still kind of do think that Gilbert, I think his best days are behind him. And I say that respectfully, of course. It's just like both guys took an L to the current champ, Bilal, but Gilbert's, in my opinion, was actually worse. People will disagree with me because people will say, well, but Brady was the only guy to get TKO'd by Bilal. How could you say that? It's like, yeah, but like the fight was pretty competitive until Bilal really, changed the tide in that second round. Whereas Burns versus Bilal was a 5-round shutout, was just a dismantling. And I don't want to hear any bullshit about, oh, Burns was injured. Like, you know why that pisses me off? I'll tell you why. Because before the fact, when I had this big bet on Bilal at like really nice dog odds, everyone's sending me this picture of Bilal's ankle, like his foot was a balloon. You know what I'm saying? Like Bilal's the one with the injury going into this fight, right? And did I hedge? No. Did I change my pick? No. I was like, fuck it. We'll beat this guy with an injury. And then in the fight, Gilbert shoots a sloppy shot and he eats a knee from Bilal, a knee to the shoulder, and actually messes up Gilbert's shoulder. So Gilbert didn't come into the fight with an injury. Gilbert got injured by what Bilal did to him, whereas Bilal went into the fight with an injury. Now all I hear about is, oh, Gilbert's shoulder was messed up. Therefore, this win doesn't really count. Like, oh, you know what would happen in a rematch? Yeah, I know what would happen in a rematch. Bilal would school Gilbert again, is what would happen in a rematch. So I just hate this like selective reasoning / selective facts. Like I said, before the fact, it's all about, oh, Bilal's foot was a balloon, Bilal's foot is a balloon, fade this guy. Then after the fact, it's all, yeah, Gilbert was injured in that fight. Why was Gilbert injured? Gilbert didn't go into that fight with injury. Gilbert got injured by what Bilal did to him. So let's be very clear about those things. You know what I'm saying? But I think that and I'm gonna get to Brady in a second, okay? But first let's focus on Gilbert. Another thing, another big number one bullshit to quote Khabib is the whole Gilbert being up 2-0 versus Jack Della. Dude, that is credit to how bad the judging is in this sport. Like, how could you watch round one of that fight? You see Jack Della picking this man apart. Burns gets a takedown with like 20 seconds left. You're gonna give him the round for that? I thought the new scoring criteria was all about damage over, laying on someone with no damage. So like people are so selective about their reasoning. Like when it contributes to their argument, oh, damage, favors all. But when it's not, contributing to their argument, it's Burns was up 2-0 on two judges' scorecards, which he was, but like that's fucking terrible, man. Like, how can he possibly be up 2-0 when he was picking this man apart every single time they were on the feet? Like, Burns only had 2 moments on the feet versus Jack. He landed one overhand and he landed one nice little elbow. Okay, besides that, Jack was controlling the pace on the feet. And when we talk about Gilbert, kind of slowing down a bit, don't you think that in Gilbert's prime, when he had those spots on the mat with Jack, in his prime, he probably would have finished the fight or at least held him down longer. Jack did a fantastic job getting back up to his feet, reversing position, and eventually landing the kill shot, the knockout blow, So, yeah, so when you come off a fight against the champ, Bilal, where you got thoroughly dominated for 5 rounds, and then you had that heartbreaker against Jack, like, how do you recover from that, especially at 38? Well, look, if there's anyone that can do it, it is Gilbert Burns. He is that big of a badass. I really do respect him. And he is one of those guys with like a short memory, like always gets back on the horse and gives max effort. So I love that kind of stuff, bro. But here's my thing with Brady. I was never sure about Brady. I knew that the guy was physically strong. I knew that the guy was a Daniel Gracie black belt, but I always thought, like, how did this guy get into the top 15? He didn't beat any ranked fighters. And then I remember when I bet on him against Chiesa. First 2 rounds, does whatever he wants. Third round gave me a scare of all scares. But I say this all the time. No one's exempt from that first L. And I really do believe that undefeated record put a ridiculous amount of pressure on Sean Brady. Like, if you hear him talk before the Bilal fight and you hear him talk now, it doesn't even sound like the same guy. Like, before the Bilal fight, he sounded arrogant. He sounded kind of stupid almost. And then after the Bilal fight, I really think losing that undefeated record was the best thing that ever happened to Brady. Now you hear him talk. He talks about how he's grateful for these opportunities, how he wakes up every single day blessed, how he's actually glad the Bilal fight happened because now, he doesn't have that pressure of being undefeated anymore. Now things can happen naturally. And I love what I've been hearing from Brady. And you know what else I love? I love that comeback performance against Kelvin Gastelum. Comeback from the Bilal fight. I don't mean comeback in the Gastelum fight. It was a comeback from the loss to Bilal. And let me talk about that Kelvin fight. Let me tell you why I was so impressed with that fight. Firstly, people are going to be like, oh, he beat Fat Kelvin. Fake news. How can you say that was Fat Kelvin when Kelvin made 170 pounds for that fight? Actually, that's Kelvin in the best shape that we've seen him in 10 plus years. That's the best shape Kelvin's ever been in a long, long time. I think he might have even made championship weight. Don't quote me on that. I mean, he definitely made weight, but I think Kelvin might have even made championship weight for that fight. That was the best shape Kelvin's been in years. That wasn't one of those fights where, like the Woodley fight where Kelvin missed weight by 11 pounds or the Daniel Rodriguez fight where he missed weight by like 9 or 10 pounds. Like, dude, he was in shape for the Brady fight. Let me tell you what impressed me the most about Brady in that fight. So I had worries that Brady might be a bit of a front runner. Like I said, the Chiesa fight. But I want to put context on that Chiesa fight. Was it a bad look in that third round? 100%. But again, Chiesa's been around the fucking block, guys. Like, Chiesa submitted Beneil Dariush. Chiesa's beat some real guys. I know now Chiesa's a washed-up fighter. Guys, this was like 3-4 years ago. Like, people learn from their mistakes, man. And I think that, again, it was important for Brady to lose that undefeated record because, like I said, what I liked about the Kelvin fight so much, I know I've been marinating this. Let me tell you what I liked about that fight so much. I love the fact that in round 1, Brady goes out there, his little short ass body triangles Kelvin Gastelum. And so he takes his back. Kelvin Gastelum reverses position and gets on top of Brady, right? Those are the moments where you find out what kind of heart someone has when you're backpacking someone you're using max effort, you're trying to finish them, they reverse position, get on top of you. That's when Brady had a chance to quit. And he did not quit. He did not fold. The guy kept pushing forward. And he just looked so physically strong in there, man. And it didn't deter him that he lost the early position against Gastelum. And he looked just as fresh in round 3 as he did in round 1. That's a big step in the right direction. So people talking about how, oh, Brady's never been 5 rounds. Sure. But he's given me hope that he'll be fine in that 4th and 5th round based off that last fight, man. That last fight was a huge step in the right direction, not just in terms of getting back on track, but in terms of getting your confidence and your mindset where it should be, letting you know, hey, you really do belong. You really do have talent. You only lost to the champ, dude. Like, so I think that Brady is catching Burns at the perfect time this weekend. I think that do not be surprised if Brady takes down Burns. Burns is so good at jiu-jitsu and so confident that he'll play on his back. He'll try to look for subs off his back. The thing is, it's super hard to submit a guy like Brady with that short, stocky frame, no neck, just a ball of muscle. Like, I really think that Brady's going to tire out Burns. And from there, do not be surprised if you start seeing Brady have success on the feet against Burns. One thing about Burns, how many times has this man been dropped by jabs and against non-strikers either? Like Hamza and Kamaru, like they developed their striking, but these guys are not natural strikers. These guys are wrestlers. Wrestlers are out here dropping this man with jabs. Okay. So I'm just saying, like, do not be surprised if another grappler and Brady comes out here and floors this man with a jab. I just think that right now they're both trending in opposite directions, and Brady's catching him at the perfect time. Brady's already been through his loss. He's overcome it. He's come back better, and now I like where his mindset's at. So, yeah, there's going to be a time to fade Brady again. I just don't think this is the time. In fact, I'm more inclined to want to fade Burns because I think Burns is actually legitimately on his way out. And I think that the whole, oh, he was up 2-0 versus Jack Della bullshit. Like, dude, if that was a 5-round fight, well, it didn't need to be a 5-round fight because Jack finished him in under 3. But I'm just saying, like, when you're talking about main events, when you're talking about future, title challengers or whatnot, you got to base it off how it would have been in a 5-round fight. And Burns didn't even get past a 3-round fight with Jack. And the whole, he was up 2-0, like I said. Fuck these judges, man. They have no idea what they're watching. They're so inconsistent. Like, how can you say one day that damage is the number one criteria, then the next day you favor a last-minute takedown for a guy that's been getting picked apart the whole round? Like, so I don't care what anyone says. I don't care what the judges say. I don't care what the scorecards say. I care about what my 2 eyes saw that night, and when I rewatched it again. So, and I know there's smart people talking about how JDM was down 2-0. I don't care. I don't care. I know exactly what I saw. So no one can tell me differently. And all that being said, timing is everything in this sport. And I truly believe Brady is catching Burns at the perfect time. And as a result, I think he's going to come out here, get this win, move up the rankings, and make a name for himself in the welterweight division. So yeah, I'm going Sean Brady here in the main event. Co-main event of the evening in the flyweight division, we got the former champ, Jessica Andrade. She's 26-12, taking on the top prospect, Natalia Silva, who's 17-5. Currently, they got it. Natalia Silva minus 300. The comeback on Jessica Andrade is plus 250. I mean, it's no secret that I think that Natalia Silva is one of the absolute best prospects in women's MMA. I like everything about this young lady. Firstly, I love the fact that she paid her dues on her regional scene before she even got here. So it's not like one of these cases where, you can expect a vet lesson or like expect her to get humbled and have to take that first UFCL. Like, I mean, she might have to take a first UFCL, but I'm just saying, like, it's not like one of these kids that, is coming into the UFC 6-0 and like just isn't ready. Like, Natalia has paid her dues. She fought real competition on her region. She was in her regionals fighting Marina Rodriguez, y'all. So like Natalia, and when you watch her regional fights, looks nothing like what she looks like now. So this is a girl that's overcome adversity, picked herself back up from the lows, and got to the UFC at the perfect time. Now she's peaking. And I love everything about this girl, man. I love her movement, her takedown defense, her athleticism, her kicks, her punches, her attitude, the fact that she's gonna keep pushing forward the entire time. She's very hard to hit. She's very quick. She's slick. I like everything about this girl. I truly believe Natalia Silva might challenge for a UFC title before it's all said and done. And with Andrade, I mean, what can I say? Andrade is a legend. Andrade was one of the first women's MMA fighters that had one hitter quitter power with her hands, would pick you up and slam you. You know, Bata Estaka, that's her nickname. I'm pretty damn sure that translates to pile driver. And I mean, she slammed Rose Namajunas on her head and won a title. Like, what's not to love about that, you know? So Jessica will always have my respect. And I also love the fact that Jessica, you know, right when it looked like Jessica was on her way out, gets 2 massive rebound wins against Durden, where she destroyed Durden, and against Marina Rodriguez. I know it was a split decision, but I really felt like Andrade actually showed a big evolution in her game defensively in that fight. Because one of the issues I always had with Andrade was I think she gets hit way too much. And like she was out there like moving her head and pivoting, and I was like, okay, Jessica, I see you, girl, you know. So yeah, I love seeing like these legends and these vets like still adding wrinkles to their game, still developing, still, you know, not satisfied with their finished product, and they're still going out there and evolving. So I love seeing stuff like that. But I think that the line indicates that Natalia is catching Jessica at a great time. And I agree with that. I really do. Like, I think that stylistically speaking, charging forward against Natalia with her movement, with her accuracy, with her speed, it sounds like a bad idea, man. And like, I really respect the fact that Jessica Andrade, like, she's gonna make her presence known. Like, you know this about her, Jessica Andrade. Like, Jessica is such a badass. I love Jessica, but I think it's a bad matchup for her. I heard my boy Clint saying the Yan Zhao stoppage was early. You might think that. Jessica doesn't think that. I know Jessica didn't protest that. And I know I was very happy to catch that plus 160 there. Shout out, Clint. But I think Natalia Silva's catching Jessica at a great time. And for that reason, I'm picking her to win. Am I going to be laying -3? Probably not. You know, because where's the value? Like, I think that it's probably about accurate. I don't think that, you know, like, for example, when Natalia fought Jasmine, she was like plus 260. That's value, right? Whereas here, -300, probably accurate. I mean, if you think Jessica might have something for her, go for it. But I just like the development I've seen from Natalia. I like I said, everything I said already about her regional scene. This girl's paid her dues. Like, this is not someone who needs to take a step back to take 2 steps forward. Like, I think she's ready to make her run right now. So for that reason, I'm picking her. Featured bout in the featherweight division. We got Kyle Nelson. He's 16-5-1, taking on Steve the Mean Machine Garcia, who's 16-5. Currently, they got it. Steve Garcia -180. The comeback on Kyle Nelson is plus 155. So shout out Kyle Nelson. He's a guy who like used to be a round 1 or bust guy. And, you know, I think he went 1-3 in his initial UFC run. And he's a guy that realized like, hey, if I want to stick around, I got to change something. And he actually did change a lot. Like, he's turned his style into kind of like a low output style, which like he knows like, man, when he goes too hard, he gasses himself out. So now he's really gotten a lot better at pacing himself. He's a lot more methodical, mixed in some more wrestling. So shout out Kyle Nelson, because I never saw that coming. And then Steve Garcia, what's not to love about a guy who's on a, what is it, a 5-fight kill streak? 4-fight kill streak. What's not to love about a guy on a 4-fight kill streak? Like, especially when you start off your UFC career 1-2, and then you go on a 4-fight KO streak. And we're talking about a guy in Steve Garcia who also paid his dues on his regionals. I mean, this is a guy who knocked out Chepe Mariscal in LFA. And, you know, he won out Contender Series, but he missed weight by a mile. Like, came in like 139. That's crazy. This dude used to fight at 35s. And he used to fight at 55s, but I think 45 is the correct home for him. This is a tough one. I think that Kyle Nelson's run might be coming to a bit of an end. You know, I'm not really convinced that this guy's truly a contender like people think. Like this whole brand new man stuff. I think he just changed his style a bit more to be a bit more efficient, which I respect, dude. Like, the fact that you had the mental wherewithal to make that change, all respect. But the thing about Steve Garcia is he is a killer be killed fighter. And Steve Garcia is going to push that pace on Kyle Nelson. He might bring out those past issues that Kyle Nelson had. Kyle Nelson's going to have to fight in this fight. Like, you're not going to be able to kind of just, maneuver around and, like not really fight, but kind of edge by a decision. Like, I think Kyle's going to have to fight in this one. And we're going to see if he's truly turned a corner or not. See, the thing with Steve, when I say kill or be killed, I really do mean that. He is kill or be killed. Like, he's either knocking you out or he's getting knocked out. So you can't write off the possibility of Kyle Nelson getting a knockout. Kyle Nelson does hit hard, but I think that right now, Steve's catching. I say he's catching him at a good time. I feel like I've said that the last two breakdowns. Is that really true? Is he really catching him at a good time? I don't know. This is a tough one to call because I've never, since Kyle Nelson changed his style, I haven't been good at predicting his fights. Just to keep it a buck with y'all, I'm not good at predicting the new Kyle Nelson. But I'll pick Steve Garcia here. I think that Steve Garcia is going to make this guy fight. I think we're going to see the old tendencies come back from Kyle Nelson. And I think that Steve Garcia is going to extend his kill streak. So I'm going to pick him for that reason. Now, next up in the flyweight division, we got Matt Schnell. He's 16-8, taking on Cody Durden, who's 16-6-1. Currently, they got it. Cody Durden, minus 315. The comeback on Matt Schnell's plus 265. You guys are welcome for this fight. So, excuse me, I'm still a little sick. But it got announced on Twitter that, who was Matt Schnell's original opponent? Alessandro Costa. So it got announced that Costa pulled out with an injury. So I quote tweet that and I say, I know a guy who will fight Matt Schnell on less than a week notice. CC at Cody Durden. Less than 24 hours later, guess who got the fight? I get a call on I think Tuesday morning by Cody, like, you'll never believe this. I just got the call. I was like, oh shit, let's fucking go. And you know how much respect I have for Cody Durden, like to be able to call this guy my friend who this is not the first time he's taken a UFC fight on less than a week notice. He fought Chris Gutierrez up a weight class on less than a week notice and went to a draw with him. And now he's taking another one up a weight class on less than a week notice. It's at 35s. I'm proud to call this guy my friend. Like what kind of balls this man has to, dude, you are the fucking man. Like, win, lose, or draw, dog. Like, you have all my respect for making moves like that. Like that's what dream chasers do. That's what big balls are all about, man. So I really hope that when Cody booked his flight, that he booked a seat for himself. Yeah, I hope that Cody booked 2 seats, one for himself and one for his gigantic balls. You know what I'm saying? So shout out Cody Durden. You are the man. Listen, I don't think Schnell's a bad fighter at all. I know he's being priced like he's done and stuff. I don't think Schnell's bad. I think Schnell has a bad chin, but I don't think Schnell's a bad fighter at all. I think Schnell's actually very well-rounded. I think he's very technical. I think he's good everywhere. Like, I don't think Schnell sucks, and he's being lined like he sucks. His chin sucks, but what happens if his chin doesn't get touched? I think that's a valid question. I think that was a valid question in the last fight with Alessandro Costa too. What happens if Schnell's chin doesn't get touched? Because you remember his fight against Tyson Nam. Tyson Nam had a reputation for being one of the heaviest hitters at flyweight. Well, Tyson Nam wasn't able to crack Matt Schnell's chin. Matt Schnell won. So I'm just saying, man, like, when you don't knock out Schnell, he's usually in the fight, man. He's usually really damn good. So I think for Cody, it's just important to know that no matter how bad things get in this fight, you always have a chance to touch this man's chin. So it doesn't matter if you get dropped early, because I know Cody's actually gotten hurt his last 2 fights. It doesn't matter if you're getting picked apart. You always have a chance to win this fight. And Cody knows that. Cody's very aware. Cody actually trained with Schnell in the past, and I have heard some stories about that, but I was told that in confidence. I'm not going to repeat it, but let's just say Cody is very aware of Schnell's chin. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to be aware of that. So obviously I have concerns. Cody's taking this on less than a week notice. Like, that's not ideal. But I also know that Cody's wanted this fight for a long time, because when I've talked to Cody about fights, I've always said, I want you to fight Schnell. I want you to fight Sumadarji. And he loved both those matchups. And now he got the Schnell fight. You got what you asked for. You just didn't get it in the most ideal of situations. So I think the early going, I actually do think Schnell is gonna, have success with his jab, maybe his calf kick, but I do think eventually at some point, Cody Durden's gonna get his second UFC knockout. So let's fucking go, Cody Durden. You know what I mean? But again, guys, I am so biased when it comes to Cody Durden. This guy is a personal friend of mine. I've told you all many times. I've been in this man's house. I've met his wife and kids. I will never pick against Cody Durden. Even if I think that the odds are a bit wide, but I'm putting my faith in the odds makers, and I hope that they're right about this. Like I said, they're pricing Schnell like he's completely done. Is Schnell truly completely done? We'll find out. But like I said, I don't think Schnell's a bad fighter at all. I think Schnell's really good. I actually think Schnell's gonna have success in this fight until he gets caught by Cody Durden and Cody knocks him out. So that's what I'm rooting for. I'm rooting for a Cody Durden knockout, a Cody Durden performance bonus. He just got his new 4-fight contract. I'm proud of you, kids. So let's go out there, give it our best, and see what happens. I'm going Cody Durden. And next up in the lightweight division, we got a matchup between Trevor Peek. He's 9-2, taking on Yanal Ashmouz, who's 7-1. Currently, they got it. Trevor Peek. Just depends where you look. -125. The comeback on Yanal Ashmouz is +105. Y'all know I'm a huge fan of Trevor Peek. Like, when you fight like Trevor Peek fights, you get my support. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just love people that go out there and truly fight. And that's what Trevor Peek does. And let me say one more thing. So I heard a show earlier this week, and the guest was talking about how, like, yeah, I don't get how people say Trevor Peek is so exciting. I mean, his last 3 fights have gone to decision. Dude, when I hear that kind of shit, it just triggers something in me. Like, since when is going to decision an indicator of being boring? Some of the best fights of all time have gone to decision. Look behind me right now. Do you see that poster of Kelvin Gastelum versus Israel Adesanya? Do you see that poster of Dustin Poirier versus Max Holloway 2? Both those fights went the 5-round distance, and they're 2 of the best fights of all time. Leonard Garcia versus Korean Zombie went the distance. Nogueira versus Couture went the distance. Robbie Lawler versus Carlos Condit went the distance. So for someone to sit on their high horse and say, yeah, I don't think this guy's too exciting. I mean, his fights go to decision. Like, that is one of the most casual takes I've ever heard in my life, and I can't stand that shit. So now let's talk about the reality. Have Trevor Peek's fights really been that exciting or not? I mean, I think the only one that was kind of on the fence or whatever was the Yaya fight, which is like the first time that Trevor Peek kind of tried to play it safe or whatnot, and he still won. But like, I thought his fight against Chepe Marisco, which went to decision, and his fight against Charlie Campbell, which went to decision, were amazing fights. Like, I know he didn't get the win there, but like, I can watch those fights all day. Those were 2 bangers, man. So yeah, man. You can't be saying shit like that in front of me. And this kid Yanal Ashmouz, I gotta keep it a buck with y'all. I'm not that big of a fan of his style. Why is that? This is why. Because there's no volume. He's just reliant on one big shot. And he does hit hard. He is athletic. He is explosive. Like, this guy will come out there, swing bombs, throw spinning hook kicks and whatnot, but it's few and far between. It'll be like no activity for 30 seconds, then he swings a bomb. No activity for 30 seconds, then he swings a bomb. And listen, if this guy lands, it hurts. I mean, but when you got to put context in that debut against Patterson, like, Patterson is way better than Ashmouz, but Patterson was cutting way too much weight to get to 155. Why do you think this guy moved up to 70s, man? And what do you think would happen if they ever ran it at 70s? Patterson would school this guy. Like, I'm not calling it a fluke. It's not a fluke. And the reason it's not a fluke is because I even said on that breakdown that Sam Patterson is an ugly knockout waiting to happen. He's got that tall man's defense. You combine that tall man's defense with a drastic weight cut, and even a guy like Ashmouz, who's a lower level guy, can go out there and knock you out. But I just don't look at that fight as an indicator of what's to come in Ashmouz's career, because I thought that was, again, when you're fighting a guy who lifts his chin up in the air and cuts, like, has one of those brutal weight cuts, like, it was almost like tailor-made in hindsight. But you saw what happened in that last fight against Chris Duncan when he can't get his knockout. And again, I know people are going to bring up this injury or whatnot. Dude, how did he look before the injury? Not good. Not good at all. And Chris Duncan's a very slow guy. Chris Duncan's a very chinny guy. Yeah, I just think Ashmouz is KO or bust. And Trevor, look, he goes to fight. So yes, he can be hurt, but if you're not KOing Trevor, Trevor's going to work harder than this guy. I'm curious to see what new wrinkles in Trevor's game he has, because he is on the greener side. He is learning on the job. He is making improvements. And you can say the same thing about Ashmouz. He's a guy who's had less than 10 pro fights, so you'll be seeing big improvements every time as well. But Ashmouz's style, he throws 100% into every shot, which I respect. But when you do that, you're going to leave yourself susceptible to gassing out. Your volume's going to be on the extreme lower side, and you're so reliant on that knockout that if you don't get it, like, you're losing this fight most likely. So I really think Ashmouz is KO or bust in this spot, and I think that Trevor Peek has multiple paths to victory. I think he can outwork this guy to a decision. I think he can catch this guy, and I think he can bully this man. So I'm going Trevor Peek to outwork Yanal Ashmouz and get this dub. And I don't give a shit about this picture going around of Yanal. It looks like he's on all the steroids in the world. So what? Steroids don't give you volume. This guy already had power. What, is he gonna have more power now? Like I said, guys, his style. If he gets the kill shot, he gets the kill shot. But when he doesn't get the kill shot, the in betweens do not look good at all. So yeah, I'm going Trevor Peek here, man. Now, next up in the lightweight division, we got a matchup between Rong Zhu. He's 25-5, taking on Chris Padilla, who's 14-6. Currently, they got it. Rong Zhu minus 250 to come back on Chris Padilla's plus 210. Y'all remember when I bet Ignacio Bahamondes against Rong Zhu, and Rong Zhu came in with pink hair, he missed weight by 5 pounds. I said, if you think a guy that what the fuck did I say? Hold on a second. Let me look it up real quick, because I don't want to misquote myself. But I thought it was pretty funny. Hold on. If you thought Ignacio was going to lose to a dude that missed weight by 4 pounds and dyed his hair pink, then I'm sorry, my friend, but Zhu wrong, straight up. But listen, man, I got to give Zhu Rong a lot of credit. He just came into the UFC too early. The kid was anywhere from 19 to 21, allegedly, when he came into the UFC the first time. I just think he was just too green. I like the fact that this guy went back to the regionals, got a couple more wins under his belt. Now he's 24-25. And now I think he's ready, because he did have potential. He is an electrifying fighter. He does go for finishes. He's a lot of fun to watch on the feet. He just came into the UFC a bit too early, but now what you see in his most recent fights, he still has the same style. He's just more mature. He's just more composed. And you're going to see a similar thing. We're going to talk about this kid Yi Zha later on the card. Still has the same style he always had, just a little bit more maturity now. And I love seeing that from Rong Zhu. So I do think he has a bright future. And then with Chris Padilla, it always makes me happy, and I have a soft spot when these journeymen get their opportunity. And that's not disrespectful for me to call him that. If you listen to any of his interviews, he calls himself a journeyman, and he is a journeyman. So it makes me happy when these guys that have been grinding their fucking asses off for years on the regional scene finally get their opportunity. And also, if you listen to this man talk, Chris Padilla, he just sounds like a cool dude. He sounds like a really positive individual. He's grateful to be here. And I like the guy. He's also seems pretty damn strong and a decent ground game as well. So there's a lot to like about Padilla, and I'm super happy he got his opportunity. But I think that Rong Zhu, with the fact that you had your first UFC opportunity when you were just a kid, you go back to the regionals, you pay your dues a bit. Now you're coming in here with this new composure, this new maturity, and your style was already good. It just needed a bit more seasoning. Now he's got that seasoning. And what I think is going to happen in this fight is I think Rong Zhu is going to stuff this man's takedowns and bust him up. I think it's going to be calf kicks. I think it's going to be jabs. I think it's going to be knees up the middle. And even if he does get taken down, I think he pops back up and he just keeps slowly chipping away at Chris Padilla. I'm not sure if he gets a finish or not. Padilla's a super tough guy, but I do think Rong Zhu wins this fight. I just think that there's too much volume on the feet. I think his takedown defense is good enough to keep the standing. And I think he's a bit too fast, a little bit too athletic. Yeah, I'm going Rong Zhu here to get back on track in terms of UFC and start a nice little win streak, man. I do think this kid is talented. It's just, he just wasn't ready the first time. Now he's ready. I'm going Rong Zhu here. Now, next up in the featherweight division, we got a matchup between Isaac Dulgarian. He's 6-1, taking on Brendan Marotte, who's 8-2. Currently, they got it. Isaac Dulgarian minus 3,000. The comeback on Brendan Marotte is plus 1,300. So, my friends, you got to lay $6K to win $200 on Isaac Dulgarian here. I get why. Listen, man, I watched this dude Brendan Marotte's last win, and let me pull it up real quick just to make sure I'm saying the right things. Yeah, I am saying the right things. He fought a dude in his last win who was 11-20. 11 wins, 20 losses, my friends, right? And what happened in that fight? You just look on Tapology, you see that, oh, he got a first-round finish. But you actually watch that fight? Dude, this 11-20 guy was easily taking down Marotte, full mounting him, doing whatever he wants. But then, you know, an 11-20 guy is going to do what an 11-20 guy does. Jobber's going to jobber, and Marotte found that finish. But I'm just saying, man, if that 11-20 guy can full mount you that easily, what do you think is going to happen when Isaac Dulgarian takes you down? And I know Isaac's coming off a loss, but again, I talk about it. It's important for undefeated fighters to take that first L, to learn you're not invincible. You can't just run through everybody in the first round. Some of these guys are going to be able to take your storm, and then you got to be ready for the deep waters. Now, I mean, that fight with C-Rod was the best thing that ever happened to Isaac Dulgarian, because now you're going to see this kid go on his big run. Now you're going to have a kid who he doesn't have to worry about his undefeated record. He doesn't have that big weight on his shoulders of, man, I got to keep that. Oh, I got to play it safe. I got to do all these things. Now he's going to take more risks. And now you're going to see the best Isaac Dulgarian you've ever seen. And I think he runs through this guy. I think the odds are accurate. Like, Brendan Marotte doesn't belong in the UFC. Terrence McKinney, Terrence McKinney knocked this kid out in like 20 seconds. Why was that fight booked? Terrence McKinney was supposed to fight Chris Duncan. Chris Duncan had visa issues. They were like, fuck, well, we want to keep McKinney on the card. Who can we call? Well, I know that this guy isn't going to get a UFC opportunity any other way. I know he'll say yes. He said yes. He got smoked. He said yes again. He'll get smoked again. Yeah, Marotte is just not on this level. Period, point blank. And he's going to get exposed badly on the mat here. So, yeah, I got Isaac Dulgarian to finish this fight. Now, next up in the flyweight division. Now, we talked about how the last fight was a big mismatch. I love this matchmaking. Andrade Lima, he's 9-0, taking on Felipe dos Santos, who's 8-1. Currently, they got it. Andrade Lima, minus 170. The comeback on Felipe dos Santos is plus 145. Man, what a hell of a fight this is, dude. Between two top flyweight prospects. I like these guys a lot, man. I mean, Andrade Lima, like, we talk about strikers and we talk about strikers. This guy is a real striker. I think he had like a ridiculous amount of kickboxing fights, but he's also a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he's very, very confident in his jits, as he should be, because it's very, very good. I think that Lima is a very serious prospect. I know that people don't like certain things about him. Like, for example, he got a 50K bonus, and then the very next fight, he misses weight by like 5 pounds. But I mean, I don't like that either. I'm not defending that. But what I think is, when you're just a kid, you've never seen money like that, you're going to do what kids do and make some stupid mistakes along the way. Now, if he misses weight again, then we're going to have a talk. But I just think that he was just doing what kids do, man. Got a little bit ahead of himself. Thought that, oh, man, I just got this 50K bonus, and, I'm God's gift to fighting. And I think that the last fight was a bit humbling for him. And sometimes that's what fighters need to, get that right headspace and get on the right track. And with Felipe dos Santos, what's not to love about this kid, man? When you make your UFC debut against Manel Cap and you put on a fight of the night with him, hey, man, I like respect, dude. Like, you're a badass. And then that last fight against Victor, I'm not really convinced that Felipe actually won that fight, but either way, it was a good fight. In the Mexico elevation, like, it was Victor Altamirano is a tough guy. Like, it was a tough fight, man. My issues I've had with Felipe dos Santos is that he stands super upright, just like all those shoot to box guys. Now, it's not an issue. It's just, I think there's going to be openings for body shots, for big punches upstairs, calf kicks. And we know his takedown defense isn't the best either. Now, the thing with Andrade Lima, some people have concerns about his cardio and his gas tank. They say that in the Igor Severino fight that he visibly looked like he was starting to slow down. I'm not convinced, man. I mean, I think that Andre Lima is a super explosive and athletic guy. And he was bouncing up from the early takedowns, and it took a little bit longer to get back up, but he was still trying to get back up against Igor. It's not like he just like accepted, being on his back or anything. He was still working up. So I'm not convinced about this whole narrative that Andre is this big gasser or whatnot. I think that might be a bit overblown. And the way they match up, maybe the deep waters could favor Felipe and when he starts finding his range, but man, Felipe leaves so many openings. Like I told y'all, the body is way open. We've seen him dropped in multiple fights. I'm not just talking about Manel Cap, even on his regionals too. We've seen him get taken down a bunch. The leg kicks are open. So I think that I definitely think Andre is winning that first round. Now it's just a question of, can Felipe ease into the fight, start finding his timing and take over late? Maybe, but I just think Andre is better than this guy. So I'm going to go Andre Lima here to get a win. Not sure if it's going to be a finish or not, but I'm definitely picking him to win this fight. Now, next up in the featherweight division, we got a matchup between Gabriel Santos. He's 10-2, taking down Yi Zha, who's 25-4. Currently, they got it. Gabriel Santos minus 250. The comeback on Yi Zha is plus 210. Man, big respect to both these guys. Like, I love Gabriel Santos, man. Like, when you fight the way Gabriel Santos does, like, you make an instant fan out of me. And y'all need to go watch this man's regional fights. Y'all need to go watch the war that Gabriel Santos had with Elvis Brenner, who's currently in the UFC. Y'all need to, and you want to see one of the best regional fights of all time, you need to pull up Gabriel Santos versus Marcio Barbosa in LFA. It's on YouTube if y'all don't have Fight Pass. Man, what an incredible fight. And I remember watching that fight live, tweeting like, they better sign this man. And they finally did, Gabriel Santos, like, this is a guy that like I said, when you fight the way this man fights, like, you can tell this guy, like, I bet if you asked him, is Vanderlei Silva one of your all-time favorite fighters? Is Korean Zombie one of your all-time favorite fighters? Is Mauricio Shogun one of your all-time favorite fighters? He'll just say yes, because that's how this man fights. Like, when you fight like Gabriel Santos fights, you must protect this man at all costs, because he is not going to play it safe. He is going to put his body on the line and then some. And he's the kind of guy that is going to be sad how his career ends. But let's enjoy it while we can, because he's going to give us many memories along the way. I love everything about Santos in terms of as a fan. But in terms of being a betting man, what I love about Santos in terms of being a fan is what I don't love in terms of being a betting man. Like, this guy goes into zombie mode a lot. This guy gets rocked a lot. This guy gets taken down in fights. So he overcomes all that stuff. And again, as a fan, I love that. I love this guy's heart. I love that he's always fighting, no matter how hurt he is, no matter what. As long as this man's conscious, he will keep marching forward, nonstop pressure, big time volume, active off his back. Like, I like everything about him as a fan. But as a betting man, my concern is that he leaves a ridiculous amount of openings, especially when you're talking about a minus 260 to minus 250 price tag. Now, his opponent, Yi Zha, I got to give this guy a lot of credit, because similar to Rong Zhu, even though he doesn't fight anything like Rong Zhu, he's another guy who, had his original opportunity but wasn't quite ready, goes back to the regional scene. Listen, I do want to criticize him a bit, because I think his record is one of the most padded records I've ever seen. I mean, just to put it in perspective, what exactly I'm talking about. Like, what do you mean when you say this guy's record is padded, Daniel? This is what I mean. When this guy was 6-0, he fought an 0-1 guy. When this guy was 8-0, he fought a 1-1 guy. When this man was 9-1, he fought a 4-16 guy. When this guy was 10-1, he fought a 3-1 guy. When this guy was 11-1, he fought a 4-7 guy. When this guy was 12-1, he lost to a 5-10 guy in the first round. When this guy was a 13-2 guy, he beat an 0-3 guy. I'm just saying, like, when this guy was 16-2, he beat a 4-7 guy. When this guy was 17-2, he beat a 2-2 guy. Like, dude, this guy's record is so padded, it's insane. But I do respect him. Reason being is this. You watch his initial run on Road to UFC and you compare it to now. So before he was just kind of like an Asian John Fitch, a Jake Shields, like no stand up whatsoever, boring lay and pray, like leopard print hair. Like it's like, bro, like this shit ain't gonna work in the UFC. I do have to give him credit because he went back to his regionals, and in that most recent fight where he got that armbar, he didn't even shoot for the first couple of minutes. Like it looked like he's a lot more relaxed. He's starting to feel more comfortable on his feet. Kicks, a little sneaky uppercut there. I was like, okay, Yi Zha, I see you, my boy. But the issue I had, man, with that armbar he got when he got taken down by buddy, bro, that armbar didn't even look like it was on the elbow, and it got such a quick tap. I was like, yeah, okay, that Gabriel Santos is never tapping to some shit like that. Watch him tap to some shit like that now that I just said that. But nah, man, I just think that if you want to beat Gabriel Santos, you must damage Gabriel Santos. And the thing with Yi Zha is it's hard to damage someone when you're just trying to bury your face in between their legs. Like, and Yi Zha's boring style is probably going to get exposed here. Now, do I think he can get a takedown or two? Sure. Like I said, Gabriel Santos leaves infinite amounts of openings. So yes, I do think Gabriel Santos can get taken down, but I think Gabriel Santos will be active off his back, will get back up. And then from there, I think Gabriel Santos has a massive edge standing, definitely offensively. Defensively, I'd say Yi Zha's got better defense because Gabriel, he doesn't really have much defense. Like I said, he's a zombie, he's the Brazilian zombie, man. But I think what's probably going to happen here is Gabriel is going to stuff a lot of takedowns. Might get taken out once or twice, but he's going to stuff some takedowns. And when this is at distance, I think the volume, the overwhelming pressure, and the relentlessness of Gabriel is going to get him his first UFC win. And I'm going to be very, very happy to see that. So, yeah, I'm going Gabriel Moscatinho Santos to come out here and get that long-awaited first UFC win, which he rightfully deserves. And I think Yi Zha is going to get his first UFC win too, just not Saturday night. Now, next up in the strawweight division, we got a matchup between Jaqueline Amorim. She's 8-1. Taking out Vanessa Demopoulos, who's 11-5. Currently, they got it. Jaqueline Amorim minus 300. The comeback on Vanessa Demopoulos is plus 250. Interesting fight. Jaqueline has a reputation for being kind of a first round or bust type fighter, but I'm not exactly convinced that's truly the case. And I'm not even convinced that she should have lost that fight to Hughes. Let me explain what I mean. I thought there was a big argument for that first round being a 10-8. And then, she definitely lost the next two rounds, but I thought that fight could have arguably been a draw. But I do want to say this. I love this girl, Jaqueline's maturity, because you hear her talk and she talks about how that first loss was the best thing that ever happened to her. She was in the UFC. She was so nervous. She just didn't really feel like she belonged. But now it's been a year or two since then, and she's paid her dues a bit more. She's gotten 2 wins since then. Starting to feel like things are starting to get put together because this girl did have potential on a regional scene. She's nasty on the mat. She's got a little pop in her punches. It's just when you're talking about the UFC level, you don't just come in here and run through everybody. You got to pay dues. You know that. And the thing about Vanessa, I have a lot of respect for Vanessa, and so do the judges, because Vanessa, one thing about her, she marches forward. Like, her technique might not look the prettiest, but like, she gives max effort, and that is something that must be respected. So like, even like half these fights that everyone thinks she lost, she keeps winning them. Why does she keep winning them? Because she keeps pushing forward, and she's nonstop with her volume. She's even landed a knockdown in the UFC, which is cool. The thing I'm worried about for her here is her takedown defense, right? She got taken down 5 times by Kanako Marotte. She got taken down by JJ Aldridge. She got taken down by Corey McKenna. I think if those fighters can take you down, I definitely think Amorim can take you down. But the thing is, I don't think Amorim's necessarily going to finish Vanessa, because Vanessa is so tough, man. Like, you don't just go out there and finish Vanessa. If Jaqueline does, hey, respect. But like, Vanessa's super tough. But what I do think is that Vanessa has 30% takedown defense. I think that's going to get exposed. And actually, I know a lot of people think Jaqueline is first round or bust, and I get why, because up until that point, that kind of seems to be the case. But like, I actually think Jaqueline can win a decision here by getting a lot of top control on Vanessa. Like, I think Vanessa's going to be super tough to sub. Like, Vanessa is a black belt too. And then on the feet, if Jaqueline is tired, you got to be worried about Vanessa just coming forward nonstop because that's what she does. She's relentless, right? But I really think that Jaqueline has a good chance to neutralize Vanessa here. And I get why people are taking the dog shot because they feel like, well, if Jaqueline is first round or bust, and Vanessa's never been sub, Vanessa has never been finished. Like, so what, you're gonna be the first to finish her? I don't think so. I'm taking the dog shot. I get that line of thinking, but when I capped the fight, I didn't really walk away thinking Jaqueline was gonna finish Vanessa either. I thought that she could win 2 rounds with takedown. So I'm actually picking Amorim for that reason. I don't think she finishes Vanessa. I think she grinds out 2 of the 3 rounds and wins a decision. Now, these last 2 fights are kind of brutal. Next up in the middleweight division, we got a matchup between Andrade Petroski, he's 11-3, taking on Dylan Budka, who's 7-3 currently. They got it. Andrade Petroski minus 260. The comeback on Budka is plus 220. So the way I sit here and praise Gabriel Santos for the way he fights, it's like the complete opposite with these two. Like when you talk about the kind of fights the fans want to see, you don't talk about Dylan Budka and Andrade Petroski. These guys are leg humpers. These guys are crotch sniffers. Like, we don't like watching these guys fight in the UFC. But the fact that they match them up against each other is interesting because sometimes when you get 2 wrestlers against each other, it turns into a striking match. So maybe that's what Mick and Sean were thinking here. Like, hey, we get these 2 boring, leg humpers in here against each other. Like, maybe they're going to come out here and actually fight. So that's what I'm hoping for. I hope that these 2 throw down and prove everyone wrong. Like, hey, you say we're boring? Fuck you. We're not boring. I hope that's what they do. I don't know. I mean, Petroski by default with the UFC experience, but like, I don't think Budka's that bad. Like, I think Budka's that boring, but I don't think he's that bad. Like, I thought his fight with Wes Schultz was a great fight. Yeah, so I'm not really sure what I think because it's like, well, like I said, when you get 2 boring ass wrestlers against each other, they usually strike. Who's the better striker here? I'm not sure because I haven't seen enough from either. I'll pick Petroski by default just because of the experience, but Petroski's not a guy I trust. And Dylan's still a young kid, so yeah, I'm really not too sure. And last but not least, in the featherweight division, we got a rebooked matchup between Zygimantas Ramaska. He's 9-2, taking on Nathan Fletcher, who's 8-1. Currently, they got it Fletcher minus 125. The comeback on Ramaska is plus 105. I broke this fight down once when they were supposed to fight, and I got to give a disclaimer to the fans. Like, I don't know what it is, but I couldn't pull up their Ultimate Fighter fights. I think every time I pull it up, it'd say like playback error. So I wasn't really able to see like, their fights on the Ultimate Fighter. But what I heard was that Ramaska, super exciting, goes forward, likes to fight, believes a lot of openings. And then with Fletcher, I hear that he's more of kind of plays it safe. But I heard he had a very disappointing performance on the Ultimate Fighter against a guy that he probably should have beat. But I liked his only loss on regionals against Dominic Wooding, who I think is a good prospect too. But then there's the whole Fletcher allegedly had staph infection. Has he recovered? So I picked Fletcher the first time. I'll pick him again, but this one I wouldn't listen to a word I say because, like I said, I couldn't even pull up their Ultimate Fighters fights. It kept saying playback error. So yeah, I don't really know, but I'll take Fletcher. All right, now we got to talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch. What is the fight to watch for UFC Vegas 97, my friends? I mean, anytime Trevor Peek is on a fight card, Trevor Peek is Trevor Peek's fight is the fight to watch. I could say fighter to watch, but no, it's the fight to watch because listen, I don't think his opponent's that good, but at least his opponent swings, and you swing at Trevor Peek, you might wake up the beast in Trevor Peek. You might get a standing hammer fist. So yeah, listen, I don't think there's any way this fight sucks. So Trevor Peek versus Yanal Ashmouz is my fight to watch. Who's my fighter to watch? I mean, I got a couple fighters to watch, man. Gabriel Santos, he's big time due for that first UFC win. He's got a very favorable matchup. Andrade Lima, he's a prospect to watch. Cody Durden taking this fight on a week short notice. Rong getting that UFC return. Like Natalia Silva, how does she deal with her big opportunity? But actually, I'm gonna go in the main event with Sean Brady. Listen, this is a guy that a lot of us aren't too sure about. Came into the UFC undefeated, had some, even though he only officially took 1 L to the champ, had some fights that had some questionable results, like that 3rd round against Chiesa. But I think he bounced back in style against Gastelum. Man, I was very impressed with that. And if he is able to come out here and parlay that with a win over the ultra respected vet Gilbert Burns, hey kid, now you're in the top 5. So for that reason, Sean Brady is my fighter to watch. Well, my friends, we did it. It's going down this Saturday night live at the Apex. I want to give a quick shout out to my boy Meticulous. Follow him on Twitter at meticulous_x. He makes my graphics. Look, I want to ask the fans something, but before I do that, I want to give a shout out to Meticulous. Y'all see this graphic with on my thumbnail? Like, we got Trevor Peak throwing a standing hammer fist. We got Gabriel Santos. We got Cody Durden with the big balls. Like, you know, like the fact that we're out here honoring these badass fighters like Peak, like Santos, like Durden, like that's what I'm all about, is honoring these unheralded guys who take risks, who come out here and take, you know, that lesser path, you know. And that's what these guys do, man. And I'll always be down for honoring guys like that. Unheralded violence guys. But let me say something. So the fans, y'all been asking me for graphics for a long time, right? Now I finally am able to deliver on that, thanks to Meticulous. But I was talking with Meticulous about it, and I was thinking, like, what do the fans want to see? Like, because I want to give the fans what they want. But I was thinking, and I was like, why try to assume what they want? Why not just ask them what they want? So, fans, what do you want to see on the graphics? Like, do you like it how it is? You want Meticulous to add something else? Is there something specific you'd like to see on the screen with the graphics? Now that we have that capability, let me know in the comments. What do you guys want to see on these graphics on the show? I'd love to oblige. Meticulous is the best artist in the world. He'll make it happen. So let me know in the comments. And again, for the fans, thank you all so much for your support. Truly, truly means a lot. I really, really appreciate it. Smash the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Share if you feel inclined. Leave me a comment. I always respond to anyone that has my back. And I'll be reading every single comment you guys leave me and see what feedback you have regarding graphics. Like, what do you guys want to see? Let me know. And then I'm on Twitter at Best Fight Picks, on Twitter at Half the Battle HQ, on Instagram at Half the Battle Pod. And I'm super grateful for all your support. Thank you so much. Until the next time, let's cash these bets.